So as a team leader, your role is really there to help. You're to be a facilitator. You're to get the resources that the team needs to get the things done that they need to. You're going to be the communication point for other elements within the company that are either obstructing or making things difficult for your team in any way that prevents them from getting their job done. But you might find that you are walking into a situation where the team is either performed or not performed or is somewhere on the scale. And again, that really shouldn't make much of a difference as to what your role is. Your role is to make the team perform as best as possible. But it's going to have a bit of a differential in terms of tone and the pace that things happen. Because if you're walking into a highly functioning team, your job is basically not to mess things up initially. The worst thing you could possibly do is walk in and start to make change for the sake of change when things are actually working really well. You need to sit down and observe and learn why this team is working, find any areas where things could be improved, and just make sure that that engine keeps humming along nicely and maybe is able to up it a notch or two. If you walk into a team that's been a bit of a disaster and it's not been performing and things are going very badly, then obviously there's a lot more time pressure on you, certainly from above. Expectation of results and change is going to come very, very swiftly from your higher ups. They're going to look at the situation and say, well, this team is failing. That's why we put you in the role. Your role is to shake things up and make it work. That's probably going to be the tone of the introduction you're getting to this scenario. But again, you do still need to listen. You can't just swathe in and start changing things instantaneously for the sake of making change. But you're going to have to start to affect some changes sooner rather than you would have done in the other scenario, because obviously things aren't working very well. And again, this is where asking questions, listening, and then discussing with the team potential options or courses of action that could make sense, and then taking the ultimate decision for which you are entirely responsible because you are the team leader. It's you on the line. It's not necessarily all of your team if things continue to go badly. The first meeting is an ideal way for you to learn of any specific, particularly pressing short-term issues that need to be dealt with. Absolutely take notes, take advice on this, and make it clear that you'll be following up that. You're not going to solve all the problems on day one in your first meeting, but just make it clear that, yep, this is going to be part of the agenda going forward, that we've got these, 2 or 3 top priorities that need to be dealt with. Maybe you weren't aware of them before, and just start to make a bit of a sketch outline plan as to how you're going to begin to tackle those, and then the steps forward from there. And that will just start to set the tone of getting things done. A must-do on any agenda for your first meeting in particular is going to be scheduling the follow-up team meeting, and also talking about doing individual meetings so that you can have conversations that are much more appropriate in a one-on-one situation than would be in a team platform. And also just make it clear that this is going to be a feature of how things are going to be going forward from here on. Maybe that was happening in the past, maybe it wasn't, and this is going to be a new thing. So before you would ever make any kind of change along those sort of lines, you need to lay out what you're doing and why you're doing it. The purpose of these meetings, the purpose of the one-to-one follow-up and individual meetings and so on. Just lay that out, make it clear if it's going to be a new thing for people, and then start to implement that as a change. And finally, to wrap up the initial meeting and also reaffirm the tone, it's always good to come back to the original purpose, the why, what it is that you're actually doing as a team. Why was your team created? Why were all these jobs created and being paid salaries by the company in the first place? What is your real purpose there? And then how does achieving that purpose not only impact, the company overall and the team, but them as individuals, how they actually benefit from having things work well, and how their work translates not just into their paycheck and the benefits they take home, but really out of the satisfaction in their career aspirations or what have you. Just relate it directly to what they are about. In summary, this first critical meeting with your team is going to be all about setting the right tone, having the correct approach where you're open, you're listening, you're there to help, starting to build those critical first foundations and the building blocks of your relationships. They're going to be so critical to making things work well within the team, as far as them working together well and with you as the leader. Sitting back and having some fact-finding time, understanding what's been going on, having a clear slate for any conflicts or issues that have been there before, and agreeing what could be the first initial priorities, really, affirming the overall purpose and expectations going forward, and setting out the agenda for having future meetings, discussions, and then individual one-on-one follow-ups thereafter.